Okay, so welcome to the first chat podcast. Again, we're not really sure what we're calling this for, but we do have the name for what it is, Thrive Community.
This is THRV Community.
And so we did the intro talk, and that was a good little start, I think.
Yep.
And now we're actually going to talk about a challenge we did while we were coming up with this idea.
Yep. Yeah, we're kicking the idea around, and the way my initial experience of it was, hey, I'm doing this thing. You want to do it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So not to bury the lead here, and it's funny because there's this whole idea of I did this thing that was challenging to me, but when you talk to other people that are in a community that do the thing that's challenging to you, it's like, oh, this is my warm up.
Right.
So what we did was run or ruck 50 miles in 2 weeks.
Yeah. But for a non-runner,
Yeah.
that it's even intimidating to think
Yeah.
about doing it. It's intimidating.
It is. It's a lot. It's more than I've ever run at one time in one period of time. I mean, most I ever did was a 5K. I did 2 5Ks in my life.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a sprinter. That's how I always viewed myself. So
Right.
running 50 miles in the course of 2 weeks was pretty challenging.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe that's a good place to start before we get into the 50 miles.
Yeah.
It was like, what are our backgrounds? And you were sharing some of yours.
Yeah. So maybe the best place to start is like how it came about.
Right.
So essentially, back in January, I went through what's called the Man of War Crucible. And Man of War is started by a man named Rafa Conde. If I don't call him Coach Rafa Conde, I'll get chewed out. But anyway, it's this 4 to 5 days in the woods, and they push you. It's a physical and mental thing, and you're essentially just a piece of shit for 4 days, and you get to the other side and you get inducted into this community. Well, made it through that, skin of my teeth on one of the days, but I made it through that, and we had to go through a couple weeks of coaching before they let us in. And as we're doing that, the coach that was walking us through the 4 weeks of the protocols before we got in, they were like, have you guys been doing other challenges? And we're all beat up. Like, we have one guy with broken ribs, we have another guy who's got bruised ribs, busted knee, almost a blown out knee, and we're like, hey, we're just trying to recover. And they're like, well, that coach was like, well, I'm doing this thing called the Taji 100. And the Taji 100 is 100 miles in a month. And they do it where you can walk it, you can swim. There's a conversion for swim, bikes, and all this. And I believe Taji came from a base in Afghanistan. Is the Taji? They call it the Taji base.
Okay.
And it was one of the soldiers there that decided to do this. And I don't know the whole story. There's a website that talks about it. So this guy, this coach, I mean, he's a tough dude, cool dude, but not much of a runner. You know, you look at him, you're like, he's not a runner. He even admits it. So that's a lot for him.
Right.
So he goes, well, this is the second week, and I got 2 weeks to finish this off, and I still got 50 miles, so you guys are doing it with us. He's like, but you have to run it or ruck it. And we're all like, shit. And it was reinforced because one of our guys, this guy Jack Olson, who's just a beast of a man, who runs like 60 miles in a day, 4,000 foot elevation change.
Hey, y'all, watch this.
Yeah, it's like a 9-hour day for him. He showed up at his first Spartan trifecta and placed fourth overall, and he's like 32. So he goes, yeah, I'm gonna go run 60 miles this weekend anyway. He's like, well, that's what you're doing. We're all like, Jack, what are you doing? So we started figuring out it's 3.5 miles a day if you want to do it every day, and it's just a lot. So, getting back to like what the background is I was a sprinter. I played hockey, I played lacrosse, so that's bust your ass while you're on the field for a minute, get off, rest for 2, go back on the ice, bust your ass for 45 seconds, get off and rest. And that's just how I've always trained. And I've done a couple 5Ks and just some running around training that, but anything like that. And here I'm thinking like, I'm going to do a 10K maybe, push it, and then I'm going to be like blown out for a week. How am I going to do this, right?
Right.
So I'll kind of start it there, and then you can tell me a little bit about your background with running.
Yeah. I actually, I'm still to this day, as far as I know, I'd have to actually get some MRIs or X-rays, something. I still have a torn ACL. I rehabbed it, so I mean that put me. I was a sprinter up to that point, and that happened around my mid-20s.
Yeah.
And 42 now, so it's like so I decided. I think it was roughly about 39 years old that I wanted to start running. So it was just within the last few years. And granted, when I did it, it was like a mile here. Finally got to the point where I'd squeeze out 2 miles, and then I ended up having a mentor who's an ultra runner who kind of coached me and actually walked me through the process. I've got one 10-mile run under my belt. Other than that, I'm about the same boat. Never any official 5Ks, but
Yeah.
that's about it. So, I mean, up to that point, I think I had like one 10-mile run, and it was a run walk. I didn't run the entire time. And, maybe at most, maybe 2 or 3, 3 to 5 mile runs.
Yeah.
That was it. That's the extent of my running. And yeah, you're like, hey, I'm doing 50 miles in 2 weeks. You want to join?
You're like, no. But yes.
Well, I'm shaking my head. Yes.
Yeah. I should admit, I mean, we are fit. Like,
Yes.
we do train. You've been training with me for about almost 2 years, and I've been training for about 5 years, but it's all been gymnastics, acrobatics, calisthenics.
It's a different beast.
Yeah,
Cardio's a different beast.
It might be a little bit more anaerobic,
Yeah.
but it's like HIIT. It's like really hard, get your heart rate up, and then rest.
Right.
It's not a
Steady state.
An
Yeah.
hour, run for an hour,
Yeah.
run for 2 hours, right? So yeah, it was. It definitely was just mentally. It was like, how the hell are we going to do this?
The logistics. That was
Yeah.
another big one for me. It's like, man, I was like, I remember just like trying to figure out the time it was going to take to run 50 miles, irrelevant of how I split it up.
Yeah.
It was like, how much time is that going to take? I love the idea. Wow, what a cool accomplishment that would be if it happened. Like I remember that was kind of my mindset around it.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's like, but something weird happens with two things. I think there was two things that were really big. Why I even agreed to it in the first place was number one, because things start to happen when you say it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You figure it out, you make it happen. And the other thing was I wasn't by myself. It
Yeah.
wasn't alone, which that's the whole idea of what we're trying to build here is so that we can do this type of stuff and push that edge and not have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had when it come. This was like 2 weeks after I got back from the Crucible, and I had then like that initial week after the Crucible, I had flown to DC, and so like I was like emotions were still tanked and everything else, and I was using the Aura Ring, trying to like watch my HRV and my recovery, and I was like HRV of like 30 every night.
Right.
Like I was just like, I'm not even recovered yet, and now I got to go run. Like, this is ridiculous. And like I said, other guys in my group had like broken ribs and busted knees, and I mean, I got a story about one guy, Shay, who's like he duct taped his leg every day to go out and run, and he had a standing appointment with a chiropractor every day. Go to the chiropractor, get adjusted, have him wrap him up, go do his run until he couldn't stop running, take a rest, do his work, go back to chiropractor, adjust him up, wrap his leg up again, go back out, run to who couldn't running, and that's what he did for 4 or 5 days until he did the time.
Wow.
And he would do like 3 miles, 5 miles. He did a 10-mile day or something like that, and just like he just put his head down and did it. The
Right.
guy with the ribs, he walked a lot. We let him walk it because that sucks.
Broken ribs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he didn't actually make it. He did a marathon's worth, and he's still completing it now. But I mean, even just doing that, just like I was like, dude, next
Yeah.
level, right?
Showing up.
So showing up. But yeah, the first few days, I mean, I did this. This was dropped on me Thursday night on our call. It was like, I don't know, 10 o'clock when I got off the call. I'm gonna go to bed early. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna get up and run 3 miles tomorrow. Get it done out of the way early. I woke up at 5 o'clock. Dog looks at me like, what the hell are you doing? Throw on my shoes. I didn't have the right gear. I don't wear shoes when I train, but the only shoes I have for any kind of athletics is like a no drop thin shoe. There's no cushion on them.
Right. And
And
barefoot shoes.
Yeah, it's dark. I throw my iPod. I got my phone in my hand. I have no way to secure that, and I'm running without my hand. And I get about 3 miles according to my watch, and I go, all right, well, we'll keep going. We'll go up here. I'm almost at I almost at Jensen Beach. It's like, oh, that's right about 3 miles. And my watch was another story about my watch not being accurate.
Right.
But I was like, I'll just go there 3 miles and around. I did 6 miles this morning. Holy crap! So then as I'm running, as I'm get home, I'm texting people like, hey, I'm doing this thing. You want to do it? So I already had 6 miles on you.
Yeah.
Well, 6 miles according to my crappy watch. On you. So when I end, you're like, yeah, let's do it. It's like, well, instead of our Friday night workout, let's just go run a 10K. And I've never run a 10K before. And I had just made a goals list the previous weekend, and I put run 10K on there. Just because of the crucible training of that, I was like, oh, I can run. So maybe I should just say I ran farther. So I put 10K on it. So within the next day, within a week of me putting that down, it was done.
Right.
So we ran our 10K. So then Saturday afternoon, I'm going to do another 6 miles. I had a better watch this time. I actually knew how far 6 miles was this time. It was a little farther than where I stopped the first time. So within 36 hours, I had essentially ran 3 10Ks.
Wow. Talk about 0 to 60.
Yeah,
huh?
it just shocked me. Legs felt pretty good. Calves were tight. Achilles was getting tight. I did bruise the bottom of my right foot because of the shoes, which it turned out it was just muscle adhesions. I got on a lacrosse ball one day at work and just rolled it out really good. I mean, it was painful, and it went away. Didn't have a problem with it the rest of the week. So, but yeah, that was the first few days for me. How was your first couple days?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was I just remember it was like, okay, I guess this is happening. And now was that no, that was that.
We were on the Sweet Smoke that first time.
I thought that was
Oh no, you're right.
That was a week into it. Yeah, we made the plan.
That's
a
right.
week into it. Which was that was cool. It was more like an adventure. We actually set the vehicles. We set shuttles, had a starting point and a destination, and when we had barbecue at the destination. Yeah. And I think we set out to run a 6K, but it ended up being 8 miles, wasn't it?
I think we were just going to do for that one. I think it was like a 5K or 5 miles.
Do 5 miles, ended up running 6.
Yeah, we were like, it's going to be a little short, so why don't we take this other route? And
right.
we were like, this road is longer than you think it is, Ryan. And it ended up being like a perfect 10K.
Right.
So,
6.25 or 6.5, whatever that is. Yeah.
And I did that another night with Christian where we ran 5 miles from my house to Carson's.
Right.
And got a burger and a beer, and it's kind of nice because you're like, I'm going to run, and there's a reward at the end of it, right?
Yeah. And I think that's I know a big thing for me is human optimization, right? And I think that's a huge component, and I don't know that I guess I'll speak for myself. I have not been as deliberate about working with those motivational triggers, not just going to go for a run. I'm going to run towards the reward.
Yeah.
So there is, and just be real deliberate about it. I guess it's always been a little fuzzy, but you have a couple wins like that and it goes, oh, that's what it looks like to set those motivation stacks in place.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to do this hard work and then I'm going to reward myself, and just recognizing. So I guess that was a cool little nugget extracted from that process, that is just being very deliberate about setting those reward systems on the back end of hard work. But yeah, I mean, it was, you invited me to do it. I agreed to do it. It's like, okay, well, I said I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It's like try to uphold that, that personal accountability. I try to surround myself with people who will hold me accountable as well, because again, it's just working with those human components that we need to get to that edge of what we're capable of. And it was funny enough, it was way more available than I thought it was. The logistics were the hardest part. Is where am I going to carve out the time to do this? And it surprised me, especially having already kind of shared the background. Neither one of us are runners.
Yeah.
Wow. 50 miles of running in 2 weeks was actually available. It was there. It was, same thing. Tight hips, legs, they knew they were working. But
we were trying to do the ATG split squats and just kind of get the hips worked out before we were going out in a run, right? So even before our workouts, we're just going to do a mile or 2 miles a day, right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to go work out. But we made sure let's get warmed up because it sucks when
Yeah.
you start and you're not warmed up.
Yeah.
Right. That was something I learned. But yeah, I mean, that whole thing of like what is possible. I think that first week I did 26 miles. So I wanted to get at least halfway. And I had that Sunday, I was like, I'm going to do 30. I want to just get ahead of it. And then ended up being pouring rain. And part of me was like, go run in the rain. I ended up like, I'm sore. I need the day to rest.
Right.
Right. So that was that first weekend. And, not a breakthrough, but it's interesting to me because my group, there were 9 of us that were doing it. And it was interesting the mindset of like, and you see this in school all the time, like teacher gives you homework, it's due at the end of the week, or an assignment or a paper. Like there's the people that wait until the last minute
Right.
and cram it in. There's the people that do it right away.
Right.
I'm the people that do it right away. So I was like, I'm getting as much of it done as early as I can so I can just not have to worry about it later, kind of just go easy on it. And a couple of the guys, like they were down to the last 2 days and they had to run a half marathon in 2 days. That's what they did. So it's that was kind of telling, just sort of like personalities with that. And you were pretty good about spacing it out and getting it out there. And
Yeah, I was somewhere in the middle, but I think I had a pretty demanding job at the time too.
Yeah, you did.
So
You were
I
working
was
a lot.
like, I was going and laboring during the day and then
running at night.
and running at night. So I was, but I will say, I do have a tendency of waiting till the last minute, and I think just knowing that, number one, I'm going to get this done. I don't know how I'm going to get it done, but I'm going to get this done. And then number two, I am not going to get this all done in one shot. I better chip away at it.
Yeah.
Throughout the period. And I think I had it down to last day. I had 2 miles left, which that's okay. I mean, like that's workable. That's manageable.
Yeah. And you aren't like getting into it like, man, I got to run 10 miles today just to get it done, right? There was one guy that had that problem. He had to go and run 10 miles that
that's
day.
that's a shitty problem.
Yeah. It's one thing if you're like, I got a mile, I just got to finish it up tonight.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. But well, how about breakthroughs while you're doing it? Like, I think, so I ended up doing all 50 miles in 9 days.
Right.
About 9 days. But some of the breakthroughs I had was like we had a group committed to doing a Spartan race. We were just going to do the 5K sprint, no big deal, just go and get it done and just have fun. And the guy Jack Olson, who ran his first weekend trifecta, I'm talking to him. He's a good friend now, and we bullshit and all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm doing a 5K. Maybe I'll try to do the 21K with him out in Arizona, and then I'll just find the 10K and do it. And I went, well, then I can say, hey, I'm a trifecta Spartan athlete. I'll do it once. I don't want to compete and do any of this stuff. And then he goes, you got to do it during the weekend. I'm like, all right, well, now I know I can run this distance. I still got to run a half marathon. That's the 21K part of that. But I'm like, now in my head, there's no longer that roadblock.
Right.
Of like, that's so far. I'm like, oh, just keep running. Right? As long as I have energy and water, just keep moving. I can do this. Like what I thought before was 3.5 miles is the most I'm ever going to run. Maybe I think my body is capable of doing 5. I was like, no, I'm way more capable of doing that. It was just like, oh my God, this is this huge breakthrough. Like that wall, that glass ceiling that I set for myself, it's not my glass ceiling.
Right.
Right. And I thought that it was just opened up that possibility. And one of the things was I had to go get my boat. It's about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away. I leave my trailer, and usually I'd get a neighbor to bring me over. And I went, "Fucking, I'm gonna run."
Yeah,
and it's like raining a little bit. It's like 2 miles, whatever. That's what I did. I ran over there. It's no big deal. Came back. So it's just it's amazing how much it shifts your mindset.
Yeah.
When you do something like that, when you look back on it, and you go, "Man, I did 50 miles in 2 weeks." It's like, well, next time I have to think about running, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So
it's expansive.
It is.
You expand a little bit, and that, playing
it's not something I want to keep up with, but it's definitely something like I've done it and I know I can do it. And
yes, been there, done that.
Yeah.
Got the T-shirt. Yeah,
kind of deal. So, but I don't have any desire to do a marathon, but I have no doubt that I could run one.
Right.
I think I'd train a little bit so it didn't suck as bad, but I have no doubt that I can go out and do this.
Yeah, and I guess it's also worth noting, and I think you were kind of in the same boat as we weren't pushing it. It was, and I guess like recognizing that too is like that's a totally different edge of running getting miles at an 11 minute 30 second pace.
Yeah.
11 minutes 30 seconds per mile. And there's a big difference between that and running at an 8.5 minute pace. And it's just a totally different level that we didn't even, but still, just to get through that first, wow, 50 miles. Yeah, accessibility. Yeah, it was a breakthrough for me too. It's like, wait, it's way more accessible than I thought it was.
Well, I mean, with the running thing, is I've always been like, how fast can I do a mile, right?
Right.
I'm not just going out because I don't enjoy running. I just want to get it over with.
Right.
But like you started talking about the zone 2, zone 3 training, and that kind of changed my whole mindset about how running works and how cardio works. Like if I just stay in the zone, it's enjoyable. I can do it. I don't want to spend an hour doing this, but I can.
Right.
Right. And it actually is funny because I ran 5 miles the other day just because I didn't want to work out. I couldn't get to the gym or whatever. And I set not my best 5K ever, but a very quick 5K, and I had all my laps down under 10 minutes and 30 seconds.
Right.
Or at the average was 10 minutes, 30 seconds. Yeah, not all of them were under that. But it's just like, the cardio, my cardiovascular system's gotten better. I feel better. I sleep better. That's the other thing. Yes. During that thing, my sleep got so much better. I was more well-rested and able to get up and do things. And I was like, I was just exhausted. And in my watch, I told you my HRV was off. I watched it. It was getting better over that time.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I've experienced the same thing is when I'm exerting, doing cardio work, like extended cardio work. Yeah, I notice my sleep. I won't always improve that day, but if it's not the first day, by the second day, like a run I do on Tuesday will give me an awesome night's sleep on Wednesday night. Kind of thing, it's like it shows up that next day for me sometimes. So I'm sure everybody's a little bit different. Everybody's got the nuances, but running always seems to improve my sleep as well.
I just thought that was an interesting result, side effect of that. So
yeah, unintended, unexpected. Yeah, those are the best.
So I know now when I'm having bad sleep, I gotta go do some cardio somehow or another.
Get a nice little run in.
Yep. Well, let's talk about the closing it out, because we both had different experiences closing it out. So I had, like I said, I got it done in 9 days, and that second weekend came, and it was weird because it was like it started on a Thursday and ended on a Thursday, so it's not like your last days were the weekend. The last days was the middle of the week, right?
Right.
So I had planned it like where I'm going to do half of it this weekend and the other half this other weekend. And if I don't make the other half that weekend, I still have a couple days to like just go out and walk the dog for a mile with a rucksack or something like that. So I was down to my last 10 miles and went, I'm going to North Savannah. And I've always been wanting to through hike that trail. So I was like, I'm going to through hike the trail. It should be about 10 miles round trip. Turns out it wasn't. But so I threw the rucksack on, and I was like, all right, well, I've rucked this trail before, and it's usually pretty sloppy, but we're kind of in the dry season now, so it shouldn't be that bad. It was bad, yeah. So it was slop through the first half of it, and then definitely all the way through the way back. I mean, it was waist deep in water at times, knee deep in water. Loving it though. And I actually decided to do run 2 miles of it with the rucksack on. And I was doing it about a 10:30 pace. It was a good pace. And I got lost in the trail because when I went up, it ended up only being 3.5. And when I came back, I realized there was a side trail I had to take. But the side trail was partially closed because they're paving it, which kind of pisses me off a little bit.
Another story.
Yeah, it's all like graded, and it's Saturday, and I was like, oh, no one's back here. I'll just hop the little fence and walk back there. And it's one of those like black canvas sort of like abatement fences.
Right.
Not like a big wire fence or anything. But they were back there. They were still grading. I kind of was like waving at the guys, I was walking by, and because you had to go around there to get the extra mileage in. But yeah, did my final day in a ruck. I was like, I'm not gonna. Well, I could run, but I'm just gonna ruck it, get it over with in one day, knock off the ruck in North Savannah. Had a good time. It was good weather, a little warm. Smoked a cigar on the last mile back, just as a celebration for having done the Taji 50.
Right.
So I had set that plan and went and did it. You had a little bit of a different experience because we were a little bit out of sync, and you had you were working a lot too.
Work schedule, and I also think one of the days, I'm trying to recall exactly how that went. feel like I had a charter one of those days too.
You
It's
did.
not like I was on
Yeah.
the river and
Well, so
or
we
maybe
talked
it was
about
like back-to-back charters, and I was like,
that
man,
was
I
that
can't get a run in.
that
on
was
Sunday.
that Saturday because I was
Okay,
we were gonna do the ruck in
Saturday.
the afternoon,
Right.
And you had back-to-back charters. That's right.
Right. So
Yeah.
I lost the whole Saturday while I was like super busy. So, kind of like circling back to breakthroughs, like I, and even how I finished it was like one of the big breakthroughs for me was just the logistics, figuring it out, like,
Yeah.
just making the commitment, figure it out. And just knowing that incremental progression, that it's
Yep.
like, man, I know if I squeeze in 5 here and I squeeze in 3 more here, and then I squeeze in 6 here, and then I do, and it was able to tally it up and over the 2 weeks. And I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I finished on the Thursday, or no, on the Friday, because I got Friday to Friday. You started on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And I started on the Friday when you told me the next day. And somehow I don't even know how I did it, man. Honestly, like I don't know. It
You were
was
pretty
just
beat.
yeah. It was. I don't even know how I pulled that off, especially losing that key Saturday or whatever. Yeah, that was like, I don't even. I just remember I just kept tallying. I was like, wow, And then like Friday rolled around. I was like, oh man, I only got 2 more miles left to do. Yeah,
Well, we got into that last week and I was done.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm not gonna let you run
yeah.
this by yourself. So I went out and ran another, I think, like 6 or 7 miles. with
Which
you.
probably made up for your watch.
Well, that's. I was going to circle back to that because I was thinking everybody would be like, well, he said his watch was off. Like, no. No, I ended up running another 6 or 7 miles, and that covered the mile loss on the watch. So I did get a new watch. I got a Garmin watch. A GPS is built in. The problem was that watch had to hook up to my phone, and I think the phone kept dropping the connection,
Right.
and it wouldn't record or was trying to guess. So sometimes it was high, sometimes it was low.
Yeah, it was a little wonky.
Yeah. So equipment was something we were going to talk about. So we're going to get to lessons learned, and lessons learned is equipment.
Yeah, having the right gear.
Yeah, but that the finish was interesting, and it was fun to do a little bit extra because I was like, oh, I'm done. I don't have to run 50 miles, but I still had it in me. Like, I was sore and a little tight. My Achilles was popping. I was like, I know I need to rehab this, but I still can go more.
Yeah,
Right.
same.
And I'm not going to push it like I had been, but it's like, let me get out there and run with you. I think even one time I told you, I was like, do you want to run the last 2 miles? I'll go do it. You're like, no, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I need to rest.
Yeah.
So it worked out good. So.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, I'm with you there where it was like, wow, there was a lot more left in the tank.
Yeah.
And that was unexpected. I was not expecting to get to the end of that challenge and go like, wow, I could probably go another week. I'm not going to, not this time, but yeah, it's like I feel like it was there. I feel like there was more gas.
So talk about sort of lessons learned. I think, part of this whole idea of this community is having these sort of experiences and sharing them, and maybe even doing them again with people that want to push themselves. Like if you had a new guy come in to Thrive and you're like, well, I'm pretty fit and, blah, 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 blah. I don't know where to start. Like, well, let's do the 50-mile run again.
50 in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I
Let's
was
go.
like, well, what? You're gonna learn. You're gonna learn these breakthroughs, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I think we can talk about like what would we do different, or how would we structure it, or prep for it, or anything like that if we went into this. I don't think prep is necessarily the right thing, but I think one of the big lessons learned for me is equipment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Probably starting with shoes.
Yeah. I'm kind of happy I did it with those no drops.
Yeah.
Because when I went to go buy running shoes, and this is sort of when the imposter syndrome thing comes in a little bit, because they were like, oh, 50 miles in 2 weeks is like 50 miles is
Right.
like my mileage in a week.
Right.
We got to realize that that's like a small percentage of people. If you're a generalist like we typically are,
Yeah.
like hitting a specialist's minimum.
Yeah, their baseline.
Is
hitting
baseline is
specialist baseline,
pretty high
yeah.
up. So I'm not comparing myself to no marathon runner. I'm never going to call myself that. But,
Right.
But yeah, so I went to go try these shoes on, and she did the scan of my feet and all this other stuff. And she goes, well, we should probably, since you wear mostly no drops and barefoot, let's try you some mid cushion. I don't know. I put them in my feet, and my it's like wobbling around.
Right,
I was
yeah,
like,
no
what is
stability.
that? I got up, and she goes, let's go for a run. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to roll my ankle. She goes, that's how they feel. I was like, this is terrible. Like, this is awful. And then another one, she got them a little bit less cushion, and I guess they're set where the toe is springy. so the toe bends and it kind of gives you a push.
Okay.
And then like that was weird for me. And I'm like, all right, what is a cushioned lower shoe? Right. And so we tried a bunch of them. And I still don't, like, haven't dialed the shoes, and I have, but they're better than nothing. But definitely having some cushion on the shoe as opposed to going no drop would be better. I even like going out and buying like Reebok cross trainers. Would have been better running in those.
Right.
So because over 50 miles, I mean that puts a beating on you.
It takes a toll. Yeah.
But I will say this though. I mean the prehab work that we've done getting into it, all of the athletic truth group, knees over toe guys stuff,
Right.
all that stuff. Like I couldn't imagine doing that without like just thinking about the other guys, other Man of War guys that I did it with.
Right.
Like how beat up they were, and even just going through the process because they didn't have that preparation that you and I did.
Right. Do working on the knees.
Yeah.
Hell, even tib raises. You know.
Yeah, we were trying to do that just to offset all that mileage, right?
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it was funny. I know with shoes, you know, and it's like this story stands out in my mind. I remember I was doting on the whole barefoot shoes. You know, I got my Zero shoes, loved it, got the wide toe box. I could feel my toes spread. I mean, this is going back before the challenge when I first kind of converted over into the barefoot shoes, and I, if anything, this is kind of like a warning. I was talking about it to a buddy of mine. It was a little bit bigger guy. And he's like, well, I'm going to go get some. And he said he wore them for like a week, and he ended up getting like plantar fasciitis. His feet were not ready for it.
Yeah.
So going that route, you really like it has to be incremental. It can't just be go from like, you know, putting your foot on top of a piece of cushion for years and then go, oh, I'm going to go barefoot.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be a slow kind of, you know, I'm barefoot flatland Florida boy. I've been running around, you know, barefoot, you know, since I was a little kid.
I was the same way. I mean, I've been training for gymnastics for acrobatics for 5 years and all barefoot, jumping and all that stuff. I'm at the gym barefoot. That's the one reason why I like that gym so much. They're like, you're barefoot? Okay, just don't sue us. I'm like, okay, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was the only reason why I made it 50 miles in those no drops. I remember when the Vibrams first came out with the toe shoes, you know. My girlfriend, who was a runner, had them. And she's like, I'm going to try to get good at running in these because the science, blah, 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 blah. And like, we did 3 miles and she had shin splints after that 3 miles.
Right.
And so like I had known when I got my first pair, like I'm just going to kind of build up on these. And I mostly bought them because I just like being barefoot, but I can't walk around the city barefoot.
Right.
So I was like, I need something to cover my foot. And that's kind of why I went with them. And then it became boat shoes and water shoes or whatever. But it just always is like, all right, besides when I wear tack boots, or Merrell's, it's always no drops or nothing, right? But so lesson on that is equipment. The other thing I would say is how are you tracking your miles? We get to talk about my 2 watches. I did not have the right watch for the running and tracking mileage. Like I originally bought it just to track my heart rate. I just wanted to know what my heart rate was on the running, and then all of a sudden, like distance of the run became important, right?
Well, just real quick, final note on the shoes. I kind of had a general rule of thumb: under 3 miles. Barefoot shoes. Over 3 miles, I had a nothing fancy, but a pair of Oasics with a little bit of cushion.
Okay.
Because I knew I didn't want to beat the hell out of my knees, you know, by putting all those extra miles. So typically anything under 3 miles, I was wearing barefoot. Anything over 3 miles. But.
Yeah, I would say if you're picking it up and running barefoot, don't run 3 miles barefoot the first time.
Yeah, no. That's like I've done a lot of training with in bare feet and barefoot shoes. Yeah. So leading up to that point.
And I would say if you have the opportunity to do it, do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember kind of as an aside, when I was doing CrossFit, they had the powerlifting class in there, and they had us go through powerlifting, and they kept yelling at me for showing up in low drop shoes, or like they always wanted me to get heel elevated shoes because it brings your heel up for squats.
Right.
So I guess more balance, especially if you're doing snatches or cleans, so you lean back more, kind of catches you.
Right.
I never liked that about that, but I guess that's just the powerlifting way, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, Garmin, all the research, and then what I watched that whole process. Garmin seems to be the one that pretty damn reliable.
Yeah, I wonder about the Polar watch if you got the one with the GPS in it, if it would be any better. But that was that run, that first 10K.
Yeah.
And we're running the watches, and we're like, whose watch are we going to use? And I'm like, dude, we're at what, like 4 miles? And I'm like, my watch says we're done.
Yeah.
So yeah, test that equipment, because all of a sudden, or don't test that equipment and run with it and act, but then you're not really completing. You don't have any integrity with the completion of it.
Right.
So,
And then there's always the alternative, where it's like you don't really need a watch. Like you can just kind of
Google
map it out
Map
on Google
Yeah.
Maps and go, okay, you
What's
predetermine your distance.
the app you
predetermine your
use,
route.
like Footpath?
Footpath's a good
Yeah.
one. Yeah, Footpath's a good one because they do allow you, you can use it for free, and I think you can have like up to 3 paths at any given time, but you can always erase one. But you can actually pull up a map and trace the path you want to do with your finger, and it'll tell you exactly what the distance is
Yeah.
based on the path you drew, and you can kind of drag the lines around and stuff like that and tweak it and tune it. And then you just follow the line you drew. So yeah, Footpath's a good one.
Yeah.
Without actually having wearable tech to measure your distance.
Yeah. It's I think the other thing I learned through that is having the heart rate monitor while you're running helps a lot.
I like knowing where my heart rate's
Yeah,
at because
this goes back to that zone 2, zone 3s. I feel like I could run a marathon today if I stayed in zone 2, zone 3.
yeah.
As long as I had some kind of like energy going in me.
Yeah,
But
carbohydrates, electrolytes.
If
things
you
like
are
that, yeah.
pegging that time, like it's like, all right, I'm trying to do a 5K with a 7-minute mile. Like, no,
Right.
your heart rate's spiked the whole time. That's what makes it feel like shit.
Yeah. That's what makes running hard.
Yeah.
Like hard, emotionally hard, physically hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a shock to the nervous system trying to sustain that much load over a longer period of time. It's just, it's a shock. Yeah.
So that and then the walk and run. Like a couple times we did the 10Ks and we hit the 3-mile mark and turn around and be like, all right, let's just walk for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Get the regs back, and then we can run the rest of the way. So no shame in walking part of it. If you have to walk and run, I know people that do the marathons, like they're gonna walk, run marathon, right?
Yep.
Just keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is a lesson learned, but it's definitely for somebody who would try this, which is the next part we want to talk about, is the advice for somebody who would try this. It's a good segue. Is it's not about the end goal. It's not about, all right, I got to get 10 miles. It's about the 5 feet in front of you. I've got to run to that stoplight.
Yep.
I get the stoplight. All right, now I got to run to that red car. It's not about that final distance. It's about that increment, getting to the next step, getting the next step.
That's funny because like I hadn't thought about that in a while. I used that method when I first started running.
Yeah.
When I first started, at age 39 or whatever, it was just like, okay, just get to that mailbox.
Yeah.
Okay, just get to that driveway. And the more tired I got, then the shorter my next checkpoint was.
Yep.
So I remember that I didn't need that during this particular challenge because I had already kind of found a nice little rhythm with the running that I did. But I do remember how helpful that was. Like I was like, I just want to stop. Nope, just get to the mailbox.
Yep. Well, that was a lot with the Crucible. Was like, just get to lunch.
Right.
Just get to the next segment. Right.
Yeah.
And even when we did the little beach mini crucibles, it was like, just do 5, breathe, do 5 more, 5, breathe. Right. There was just 5 reps, go.
Yep.
5 reps, go. Right. It was always just about that smaller increment as opposed to the larger thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a critical, and we should probably like on another time talk about those little mini crucibles.
Well,
that we do.
we still talked about putting in more of them together. So
yeah, it should be a regular thing.
Yeah.
Like at least a once a month thing, if not at least once every 6
I've
weeks
got
or
some
something.
pretty mean ideas in mind now.
It's like mean,
and less segmented, like what we were doing out there.
Right.
It just like we're gonna do a 10-mile ruck, and when we hit a water patch, you got to bear crawl through the water patch.
Oh, okay.
And then you get to the other side, and so you're going to just be muddy and disgusting the entire 10-mile route.
So just for any potential listeners here, our little crucibles usually last about 2 to 3 hours, depending on whether we throw the rucks in there, maybe some ice plunges, and then usually a pretty damn brutal workout. That's just like 5 rounds of hell.
I guess so. I kind of created these little mini ones as a preparation for the big crucible, the Man of
Right.
War crucible. I probably shouldn't be using crucible because it's trademark, blah 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 blah. But I'm just telling a story.
Right.
So we did these little mini crucibles, and I always try to keep 3 components in it. It was get uncomfortable, so you're wet and dirty. So the first thing is you get in the water.
Yeah.
Next thing is you're crawling through the sand.
Yeah.
So you get it all inside you. It doesn't matter what you do. It feels
tarred and
disgusting. And then there's sort of like a mini, not like a real true hit workout, but sort of like a mini hit workout. So we'd pick something like 200 push-ups. I think we did like 150 push-ups, 200 lunges alternating. So each side was 100. We did 100 bag slams. So rucksack in the water, toss it in the bottom, pick it back
Yeah,
up.
so 30-pound bag up
Yeah.
over your head, slam it into the water,
And
pick it up.
We were doing cycles, so it would be like you're doing rep of 10, 20 lunges, 10 back slams, and some kind of ab workout, 10 of those or 20 of those,
Yeah.
and then you would go do it, do another cycle, you would do 5, and then crawl again, and go back to that. So, I mean, they're kind of like hit workouts. They're sort of more like boot camp style workouts.
Yeah, I'd say boot camp probably.
But you do that for 3 hours, and you're like, oh man, I just accumulated 200 push-ups.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
that period of
It
time.
sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
And the push-ups, like, yeah, you come out of the gate and the push-ups look strong. If you got a strong push-up, your push-ups look strong for a little bit.
Yeah, and you're like,
Yeah, but
You're
then
doing a little
the
kip up.
backs start to sink,
Yup.
and it's like, yeah, they're looking a little weak there towards the end.
so, and that just tells you a lot. Like, all right, I'm in the shit. I just gotta be in the shit. So I have some. I know how to definitely make them harder now. It was done to me. But I also have some other ideas where they're just not so like the same. Like I said,
Right.
like do it while we're rucking.
Okay.
So, but it's something like that though. Like we need to make sure we get the gear list together because bear crawling with a rucksack on your back, you need a waist belt.
Right.
You need a waist belt.
Yeah. You need
It's
that
itchy.
load secured to the back, not sliding off to the
So
side.
anyway,
Yeah.
I've got ideas.
Yeah.
So when that comes up, that'll hopefully another segment. Hopefully we can get some other guys, some other people involved in that too.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
So anyway, just to scare everybody.
Come on, join us.
So as far, I mean, so that's a good segue to my last point. So the last thing I have on here is just kind of like what is THRV about? And just if you're listening, THRV is THRV. It's not spelled out.
THRV, yeah.
So thrive, like, so kind of just doing hard shit, pushing the edge, limit. We talked about it in the last intro episode.
Yep.
But it's, like I said, it's let's get uncomfortable, let's get dirty. And like I said, when you're crawling around in that sand, you kind of realize what you are capable of. And then what you need to work on if you want to continue to do that or go to the next level with it. But you also can see, like, I realize after doing that and doing the Man of War Crucible, there's just some shit that like I would be like, I don't want to do that, or I got to find a better way to do this. That now I just go, if I put my head down and just get over the suck, it'll be done in 5 minutes, as opposed to me threatening about it and trying to figure out a better way, a more comfortable way of doing it. Right? I'm gonna go run to the boat trailer. It's raining. I don't give a shit. It's 2 miles.
Yep.
You know.
Get it done.
Yeah, I'm not
get
gonna
it done.
die. It's just wet. So you just I don't know if you become desensitized. Well, you're just not you don't care about the discomfort.
Well, you're moving the baseline. You're as to what discomfort actually is. I mean, the human body is capable of so much more than we put it through by modern standards.
Yeah.
You know, we got all these, walls around us and ceiling
Comfortable
and
couch,
controlled climate
Cushion
and
shoes. Yeah.
refrigeration for, easy access food, a couple steps away. I mean, we've created such a comfortable world, and I guess you can almost argue that the human body was designed in harsher environments.
Yeah.
And because, like, what are we losing by creating all of these like ultra convenient
Yeah.
environments around us? The excessive sitting, the excessive eating, just everything, and what's that doing to our society? You kind of look at it from that lens too.
Yeah, I think one of the things it kind of, and it just kind of, this just clicked with me is there's things we want to do. I want to do this. I want to have this experience. I want to create this thing, but I'm not going to do it because of the discomfort.
Yeah.
right? Like
Guilty.
I want to go see the top of this mountain, but I have to climb so many thousand feet to do this.
That's so high.
Yeah, it's gonna be a week to do it. Fuck it, just go do it. Like I don't have all the right equipment. I got to get the money to get. No,
Yeah.
get the equipment you have. Spend a little bit of extra cash to try to get something that makes it makes it bearable.
Yep.
Right. Put a plan together and just go and do it.
Yep. Figure it out.
It's gonna suck.
Figure it
Maybe you
out.
have to camp on without a good tent or
Yep.
whatever. But you'll live through it.
Yeah, or maybe you get halfway there and you go, holy shit, I'm really not ready for this. You turn around, you go back, and you get ready.
Get ready, yeah. But that also makes the story too,
Yeah.
right? So it's so many people, they get to the destination of these things, and then they're like, oh, that's pretty.
Yeah.
They take a picture. But then the story they tell, and they say, oh, you did that? It's like, yeah, well, let me tell you about how I got there.
Right.
I had to climb down this thing, and there was a scorpion, and then an alligator jumped out, whatever it might be. So that's always the better part.
It's funny. It made me think of the 50 miles. It's like, oh, you ran 50 miles? Like, yeah.
Yeah, they did that thing.
Yeah, I did 50 miles.
Well, let me tell you about.
Yeah, let me tell you about what I really learned, though. Yeah, but which wouldn't be there if I didn't do it.
Yeah, I brag more about the 3 10Ks in 36 hours than I do about actually doing the 50 miles.
Right. And that's not even half.
Yeah.
It's not even half your total distance
Yeah.
that you did over that time.
Because that was the bigger breakthrough for me than
Right.
anything. So,
No, glass ceilings shattered. Love it.
damn fleas.
Yeah, so basically what we're trying to do is like these topics, these things that we're hitting on, just the edge of comfort, and another big thing that we're like, just the whole idea of exploring the edge of potential. I think that's just a common theme, and it's always going to be at the edge of comfort.
Yeah.
So those two things just go hand in hand, and I'd say we believe that there's more people out there besides just us crazy assholes.
True statement.
Yeah, there's got to be more people that are just kind of just scratching their chin, going, "Huh, I wonder where the edge of my potential is." Followed up by, "Man, I wonder if there was a group of people we could go figure that out with."
Yeah.
And that's the group we're trying to be.
Can somebody be miserable with me, please?
Yes,
All right.
yeah. I want to see where this might go. And
Well, there's you bond the best through shared misery, or shared trauma. So,
there it is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this. I mean, and then we're talking a lot of the physical stuff, and then I don't know, maybe there's some mental things like a long ice bath or a long meditation, or I can think of like what if I was silent for 48 hours or something like that,
Right.
something like that. But then you can even go past. You can start going into social interactions. Like we're starting to talk like this business and some of the other stuff we've been reading. Like, let me just get rejected 20 times this
Yep.
week.
Yep.
Whether it be from women, whether it be I'm asking for a discount for something like a cup of coffee or whatever it might be.
Little rejection therapy.
Yeah, and then what's the next? So you can talk about it being social, you can talk about it being financial, business wise.
Yeah.
So it applies. I just think the physical is the start, right?
Yeah.
It's easiest to access.
From a personal breakthrough, not
Yeah.
just personal for me, but I think that's universal. Is the physical is the first point of
Yeah.
breakthrough as far as what we're capable of.
I mean, that's also Tony Robbins teaches the triangle.
Right.
And so the base is physiology, and then it's meaning, and then language, and that creates your state, how you feel. So if you're in a down state and your physiology's like this, and you're starting to think a meaning to like what's happening is kind of based on that. So the way you want to start changing that state, like you want to feel better,
Yep.
sit
Sit up
upright,
straight,
breathe deeper, and then the things that are happening, give it a different meaning.
Yeah.
And then you start using different language. If you keep talking about self-deprecating or whatever, but you start saying, all right, I'm learning, and you
Yeah.
build it that way. So all that changes that state movement. So it all starts with that physiology, right? How you're moving. And even if you start with thinking or the language you're using, that starts changing your physiology too.
Yep.
But it's easiest to change your physiology than everything else.
Right. So it's saying I'm not bad at this. I'm just new.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
I'm
It's
getting clunky. There you go. So cool. Well, I don't have anything else. We went right through our bullet points. I think it was a pretty good first episode.
Yeah, I think we hit on a lot of good points, and yeah, I feel good about it.
Cool. You got anything else you want to say?
No, other than it's like we're gonna get what do we like socials? We're getting socials up and going.
Yeah.
I would imagine by the time people start hearing this, that we'll have all that stuff.
Yeah.
Working on a newsletter. Going to start, figuring out how that's going to start going and how frequently it's going to be doing. And I got some kind of blog posts that kind of in the works. And I'd say more importantly, we're working on the calendar.
Yep.
And the big thing about the calendar is going to be that's going to be open to the public. For this is what we're getting into.
Put your events on it.
And we want to get people out there. We believe that people are interested in this,
Yep.
and not just interested in it, but will grow and learn and evolve from this, and that will build a solid community around a lot of these ideas and these values. It's like that. So throw that out there.
We don't have any. We do have the socials. We don't really have anything really to say how to get in touch with us, but
today.
But by the time this is out there, we'll have something up, and then other episodes will have more details in it.
Yeah, a little form for emails and get everybody, like a regular newsletter going out with the events coming up, and really our intentions to really start getting out there into our local community, Treasure Coast. And it's happening. It's happening. We're stumbling through it. So.
Very cool. All right, guys. That's it.
That's it. Till next time.